Howdy, all of you delicious people. I'm here today to review the fourth episode of Invasion. So, going into this episode, now that we are four episodes in, and also realizing that there's, I guess, going to be 10 episodes into this show, immediately my thought is to say that this show needs to be more productive. Honestly, we just have Mitsuki's story that not only is there like the interesting task of having to have that part of the show subtitled to me, unless you are bilingual, then it's a severely easy task for you. But now that I've gotten to this fourth episode, I realized that the Mitsuki story just isn't like it's probably like the least productive story. Like how we just have this character in one other episode, she's just kind of like showering up and she's at this bar and she's going and sleeping with some rando and like I was like I'm sorry, this is like the least productive episode or part of her, and in this episode it doesn't feel any different. It feels like we, via the last episode, we're going to get somewhere with that story, but then in this episode it goes right back to just like, oh no, like this is just more unproductive like things. Because you would think out of every story that is to be put in here, this story should have been the most productive. The real reason why people are to watch this show should be for the Mitsuki story, and it's not. Like, if anything, you're straight up just watching this for the continuation of Anisha's story, because that's the only thing that's really, out of all these stories, that's to be really the most, like, either at least productive or like something that is to become the most interesting to watch here, where everything else, hence why she's in the poster, hence why it's just like, what was even to happen to Sam Neill's character? We're like four episodes in, and we are never going back to that whole like sheriff perspective thing. Like, we're just never going back to that now. Like, was that just some weird goofy thing that they needed to just like waste time on and never come back to? Like, hey, I'm not complaining, like that was an interesting part of the show, but it's also just kind of frustrating how we like, okay, this is, we're four episodes deep and they've never gone back to that story to just like, so all those people don't really matter. By the time that we probably come back to them, I'll have completely forgotten every nook and cranny about those people, even if we do actually go back to them. Like, I think that they were just trying to grasp in the pilot episode, they were just really just trying to grasp to find certain relevant actors to plop themselves onto the show with. So that way they could, via trailer, justify two people to watch this show. Because, hey guys, you remember Jurassic Park? And you remember that Sam Neill has been in a freaking billion kind of B to C to D to whatever kind of level of movies through years of career, but he latches himself back on to certain Jurassic Park or Jurassic World movies or something, because I'm assuming he's going to reattach himself onto some Jurassic World movie probably at some point when they, after they make a billion of them. He'll probably be involved somewhere. So, because after that they just like were like, okay, well, we don't have any other really truly relevant characters that have been acting anywhere else. Like, we have the guy who plays Travante, who is Shamir, who I just saw him on Stowaway, which actually was a really, like, it's a sad movie, but it's an actually interesting Netflix movie. Go ahead and check it out if you just also just like outer space films. Uh, Go ahead and check that out. I thought it was a really interesting story. It's sad, but it's interesting. So I'm not recommending like people don't have to go and watch the review. Just go and watch the Netflix movie. Just go ahead and watch that. I would recommend seeing it if you like astronaut movies. If not, then just don't bother. It's sad and anyways. So it's good enough. It's interesting enough. Check it out regardless. Check it out even if you hate astronaut movies and you're like, yeah, this is why I hate astronaut movies because it's sad. Anyways, so but pushing on. So this episode is just not productive. Uh, but overall, the show just doesn't feel like productive enough. Like there isn't like we can have episodes that we can invest in a character, but we're really just at this point wanting like for me at this point I'm like, why is this called Invasion? I'm not getting the invasion part of the show. Like we had one spaceship showcase us being there for like a whole like couple seconds and then it was like, oh okay, well that's all you're gonna get, that's all the CGI you're gonna get. Now back to the normal like everybody dealing with their world coming to like that's like man, we're at like kind of a slow to a crawl invasion like. And so now I just want it to be like weirdly just some hoax kind of thing, or I want some like some guy to have just had this weird goofy like I'm just waiting for this to be like a man-made alien like thing, and maybe there was some goofy like microwave things that or some goofy thing that went into space and just all of a sudden just created uh, the whole thing with the Hinata's ship. I'm just waiting for that to happen. For us to find out that it was some weird thing that somebody did that maybe opened up a dimension or some kind of goofy thing, and that's what just really happened. Or like somebody opened a portal up from the future and people from the future came here, and I would be okay with that story. But this show just has to like there has to be something to come out of this. It can't just be bubkiss for an episode. Like, hey, we gave you a little cliffhanger thing of a spaceship, and like we gave you a like that somebody is searching for answers, but searching for answers and having full conclusion of answers is two different things. So let's just get into the episode. Let's just go on and cover some characters into this episode, because I think this one will probably be a really like I always say that it's like, oh yeah, this is probably going to be a really short review, and then it takes like way longer than expected. So let's get into it. Let's just go into that double five time territory. Kind of just a filler episode, if I'm to be brutally honest. I just don't care for this episode. But if anything, we're just latched onto this Anisha story to see how it's to consistently unravel. I'm like, what are we gonna find out next? That like Ahmed didn't even like doesn't even have a job anymore? Are we gonna just find out that he got fired like a month ago and he's just like I'm waiting for more pens to drop for Ahmed, and I'm just wondering what is gonna be the next thing that Anisha is gonna get ticked off about Ahmed about. Like, are we gonna find out that he like his real name isn't even Ahmed? Like, is that gonna be the next pen that drops? Like, are we gonna find out that this guy was to come here to infiltrate the country, and like he was some spy of sorts, Are we gonna find that out? Because, like, maybe that'll, like, help us understand the whole title of Invasion. If we don't have an alien invasion, maybe there's going to be some other kind of invasion. Maybe we're just going to find out certain people are not who they say they are, and at least that would be some kind of invasion of sorts. We gotta have something here. We gotta understand why Ahmed is to be the way he is, because really, maybe, like, this was like his fake family that he was in on with, but he sneaks off to go to get to his real wife, and that he's kind of been hiding off to the side. And so maybe we can finally have some justification of this story, because like, I'm trying to come up with some kind of idea to not make Ahmed like the worst possible person that I could ever come up with upon this show. Because we just continue to have this guy just, like, we have this seething hate for this man the further and further we go along in this show. And I think we're just going to find out worse things about this character every single episode to just kind of feed us this little trinket of, like, oh, but Ahmed is to be so thankful that the world is just to go to the way it does, because, like, this guy had a lot of things just up in the air, and he was gonna drop this all on his wife, just like, yeah, I haven't really been, the job that I was talking about, yeah, I haven't had it in like a month, and oh, also, I have a gambling debt. All these credit cards, all like, I'm waiting for us to, like, find out some more horrible truths about Ahmed. So let's go into it. Let's go into that double 5-time territory. What's going on with these characters? Very little things. So really, for me to even talk about anything, I feel like I'm already ruining this episode. So it's not a very productive episode. If you've already been watching the other episodes and you go into this one, this is just a episode to get to the next one. So really, as far as even teeing this episode up, I feel that anything that I'm to say here is to pretty much be spoilers, even teeing it up, because there's not much going on here. It's a lot of slivers, a lot of stories, and none of them are all that really just productive. Like, I'm going to quickly just ram through a lot of this, so let's get into it. Let's go into spoiler time. It's about that time I'm going to spoil this episode. I feel bad even having to, like, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to go right into the show, because there's nothing. It's a nothing episode. So what happens with nothing characters? Well, let's go with Travante. So Travante in this episode is to go with the Afghan, like, guy. I still don't know what his name is, because I couldn't bother looking it up. So Travante is going along with this guy, and so this guy was supposedly to, in some way or fashion, say that he is to have figured out where Travante's men are, which, when we get to where this guy is to lead Travante, it's really just to take him to these goats. And Travante's like, wow, like, fuck, like, I was trying to find my men. Like, I was pointing to my chest saying, like, hey, have you found guys like me? And so that's the problem with translation. It's like, Travante, you should have learned some kind of language of sorts. Because, or otherwise, you're just going to be, like, unless you can have a Google Translator or something on your phone. That's where, like, things started to bug me, where it's just like, well, does the internet not work? because they can't use their cell phones, but does the internet not work? Like, you can kind of Google Translate something. Uh, or you could, like, well, like, because doesn't this guy technically have, like, is it just a GPS thing? Or, like, that looks like a cell phone, weirdly, that Travante has. But, like, it's also like a GPS. So I'm just like, you would think that they would probably have some kind of phrase. Like, maybe some guys would have picked up from the guy who can translate, just in case somebody freaking dies in a mission and they're here and they can't speak a word of something. Um, Maybe just say, hey, water or food at least. But, uh, oh well. Because, like, that's what I would try, like, to do if I'm going to be at a certain location for a very long time. I'm going to try to pick up, like, the basic words, or ask somebody who is to kind of be able to translate whatever. I would just be like, hey, man, like, what is food, water, bathroom, what is to be the translation for American soldier? But oh well. No offense to anybody who is to be, of course, Afghan, whoever. Person, people, whoever you are. So, Travante goes on and is to find out that the only good thing that he is to really get out of this is that he is to GPSly seemingly be close to one of his men. And so now he's going off, leaving Goat Guy behind to just go and find his guy, find one of his guys. But by the time that Travante is to find this guy, the only thing that he finds himself in is a firefight with these Afghan rebels because they're ticked off that supposedly they are thinking that these American soldiers had brought this invasion upon them or this attack upon them, and that's not really true. It's the aliens. They're doing whatever they're doing. They're ET phoning home, and maybe they hit the a button that says weapon by accident. I don't know. Maybe these aliens are just like, I'm going to just continue to just smack into these people's homes. Let's see what happens when I just continue to just smack into these people's homes. Because we have a really durable ship. Like, I'm just going to see what we can do by just like, farting. Our alien ships fart. And, like, I'm going to just see how they feel about that. Because they say, like, where are the aliens? So Travante is to go and find Chavez. And so by the time that Travante finds his other soldier partner, he just dies off. I'm like, wow, this is so productive. Like, we find a guy and he's dead. Oh, well, that was great. And the girl is to basically accuse this soldier of bringing a Afghan invasion raiders threat to them. And so Travante is just to go off with Chavez, and then Chavez goes, Travante shoves Chavez into this car and he dies. Oh no. This person that I could invest in, except for once they were to sing Mulan in a vehicle together, then I could invest in these characters. Pushing on. So that's all that really happened. I was like, wow, this is productive. Anyways, so Mitsuki, let's go and cover her. So Mitsuki was to go and talk to her superior after that whole, like, I'm going to go and watch all these YouTube videos of the astronaut thing and see if I can get to figure out, like, how the ship had been supposedly attacked by something, possibly. And so Mitsuki is to find the recording of Waja, but she doesn't give that to her employer to just say, "Hey, Waja, right? Hey, right, Waja." So her superior is telling Mitsuki, "It's like you're lucky that I don't fire you after the stunt that you just pulled," and like we're also thinking that like they're coming up with some kind of cover up and not saying that it's going to be like some attack or something like that. They're just like, well, it was probably just some debris that crashed into the ship, or it probably has to be some kind of glitch that happened that caused all this, some ship glitch that caused this accident to happen. Because maybe somebody put a microwave in the spaceship microwave for too long. What? Eh. Somebody put a bun in the microwave of the spaceship and just like it just exploded, right? Just exploded the ship. That has to solve this whole thing. So Mitsuki is just to walk off because she's like, God, I'm just sick of this. Like, you people are idiots. I'm gonna get freaking out of here. I'm gonna maybe come to somebody that has some kind of answers, but I'm just also just gonna go and find Hinata's dad and just ask him like, "Hey, how's it going?" Because a bulk of that is just really just like, "Hey, yeah, like your daughter never said anything about you." Oh, well, that's great because we're going to have this whole dialogue out about this. So Mitsuki walks off, and so her coworker is to just be like, well, hey, like, where are you going? And because her coworker is to think like, well, maybe it was some kind of debris, or maybe it was some kind of reasonable explanation. Maybe it was a glitch. And so Mitsuki's just like, whatever, like, you people are idiots. Goodbye. Like, I'm not going to talk to you. So Mitsuki goes off to Hinata's father, and so she is to talk to him, and they're kind of reminiscing about his daughter. And so Mitsuki is to say that Hinata had never mentioned about her father, and so it seems like Hinata and her father had some kind of falling out, and so Hinata's dad is to go on and say like, well, hey, like the main problem that me and my daughter had was that she was hiding her heart, that she was going on and dating some guy, and I just like didn't like that because I know that she really wanted to date women. And so I'm so glad that you and her just found one another and you just fell in love. Because I was a parent who accepted my daughter the way she was, not like your freaking mother that doesn't accept who you are, sadly enough. So all of a sudden, Mitsuki's like, well, great talk, Hinata's dad. How about I go and I give you a recording about Waja? Hey, like, we'll go and we'll listen to it. Because we find out that Hinata's dad was to uh, was to previously work with JASA, or the Japanese variation of NASA. Uh, you know, same thing. So so and I'm sorry if I'm offending anybody in this episode. It wasn't meant to be that way. I'm not going out of my way to try and offend anybody. I just can't not say things and then immediately just have to reconfirm. I'm hoping I'm not offending anybody afterwards. It's just, anyways. So we find out. So this guy used to work with JASA, and so he is to go on and say like, well, does Jasa have a really good like sound system so that way we can go and send this to them and so they can kind of figure this out or decipher it, because they go and they try to like drop the bass, and so weirdly we have this plant where its roots I think are starting to move around underneath the like on in this kind of like plant. And so I'm wondering if the whole Sam Neill thing was possibly just some root that came out of that whole spot, because it was like some crop thing that just kind of came out and then just dropped Sam Neill for whatever reason. Maybe they're all of a sudden, maybe what aliens are doing is they're making plants murder people. I don't know. There has to be some goofy explanation for everything going on, I guess, for why roots are seemingly dancing around. I don't know. It's weird. So that covers that goofy story that really just didn't go anywhere. So what do I have left? Oh, Casper and the UK kids. So Casper and the UK kids, this story bugs the crap out of me, because I immediately were to say, like, why don't these kids just climb out of this place? Why don't they just, like, come on, just get that grip strength going? You know what I mean? Like, just start, like, doing some, like, push-ups and, like, just get some real strength going and then just climb out of there, because are you guys just thinking that you're gonna just have infinite amount of crisps left and water source or whatever things that they're drinking from? Maybe they're drinking their own pee. I don't know. So what happens is that these kids are to slowly but surely realize that their teacher was to die. And so they're like, well, hey, let's call an ambulance. We should try to help him. And it's like, dude, he's dead. Like, kids, the phone doesn't work. The phones don't work. So, like, what you're saying is pointless. So we just get to where we just consistently have where I think Monty was the kid's name. The bully kid, Monty. We have Monty, who is to, of course, go on. Yes, I said it right. Good. So, Monty is to start control like the food consumption, because this guy is to just dictate anything. So, we just have Casper. It's like, hey man, my vote? Suck it. I'm taking my vote back. Like, you're not going to be the leader of this place. And so we have it to where Monty like tells everybody the secret that Casper had watched as Casper's mother was tossed down these stairs by his father. Just his father chucked his wife down the stairs, and Casper watched. And so they're like, oh my god, the viciousness of Casper just watching from a distance. Oh my god. Because he's also the kid that bizarrely was the one who caused this bus crash, which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. As if he used his Carrie Xavier-like powers to just crash this bus. You better crash this bus. Crash it now. No. So Casper just decides, you know what? I'm going to climb out of this canyon, whatever, hole in the ground. I'm going to just climb out of here. I'm like, thank God. Like, but also here's the thing. I think a lot of times they have to just kind of, they're using certain shots where you can kind of see where there's probably an obviously go-to spot where someone could easily just walk out of here. I swear, there's parts that someone could easily walk out of this place that they're trying to avoid shooting at. Because I'm like, man, you could just walk right off of there. Like, you'll be fine. Like, but no, they're trying to make this to be like so crucially difficult that Casper is to climb out of this thing. And so Monty's telling everybody, hey, guys, if he could climb out of here, so can we. I'm like, oh my god, you guys have just now figured that out. Like, how is it that we've taken this long to figure this out? And here's my also my one thing. So, like, you would think that these people, like, would have came to that, like, at some point and just said, hey, guys, like, should we climb out of here? And they're like, no, let's wait like 2 days, and if no one like comes for us, and if we can't like have that whole smoke screen business with the fire, like if that doesn't signal anybody, like then we'll climb out of here. But they never come to that until Casper starts climbing out of there, and then they're like, oh yeah, like let's easily climb out of here now, and just show all of us being able to easily climb out of this spot. And now they're just all walking away from the bus trying to get it back to civilization somewhere. And so we're really just banking on the fact that now Casper is to be like the new leader of this group. Hence why we have guys who are like, oh yeah, like all hail the new king, because the old king is dead, who is technically Monty, who is the old leader. So there is also to be this one spot where we find that there's some weird, goofy stuff that could have possibly caused this crash. And one piece of it looks supposedly Russian or something. And so we see that there is to possibly be maybe some lettering that is to be in one little piece. And so Casper, I think, was to thumb through his notebook, and I swear, I bet you that Casper was to have possibly drawn already what he was to have seen here. So this guy is going to probably have some psychic abilities or some premonition-like things coming, I'm assuming. And so maybe we do have this guy, have him be like a Jeepers Creepers kind of character that is to maybe just kind of warn people when an alien invasion is just going to break out, because Casper, the friendly ghost here, is going to be able to just like psychically do something with that brain, I'm assuming, sometime soon. So we'll see how that all plays out. We'll see how his brain power is going to work at some point. But yeah, so that kind of finishes off that story. So, does that cover everything? Pretty much. Besides the Anisha stuff. Okay, let's go into the Anisha story. So, the Anisha story, or the family, is, so they're going off, so they're in this hotel, if I didn't say that in the last episode, because they're all sleeping in one bed, and so we find out that Ahmed is asleep on the floor because, like, he just really wants that back support, right? That's what the kids were saying. Like, why is Dan sleeping on the floor? Maybe he has a bad back. So he's gonna just, like, sleep on the floor to just correct his bad back? That sounds dumb. Like, so we have at one point Ahmed who is going on and trying to call for Anisha in the middle of the night, and she doesn't answer him, so he just goes and looks back onto his phone. And I'm just like, what other kind of garbage thing could you tell her, like, this time around? So Ahmed is going off to, at some point, like talk to these military guys, because it seems that the military guys are telling people that they're going to evacuate certain places, and that they're also going to, I guess, put together a curfew for everyone. So while Ahmed is talking to the military guys, Anisha is to go through and start thumbing through uh, Ahmed's cell phone to see like what he was looking at last night, because Anisha, like, she might as well just keep this guy's phone and just be like thumbing through, just like, what else? What else are you gonna tell me? Like, how many women have you just been with? Like, is it like how many? Are we gonna find out that he's like the Kurt Russell of this world, where he has like 30 different women in different kind of places? And so like he called like three different women at this point in time. When are we gonna find out more about Ahmed? Because that's the only thing that we can really have as productive parts of the show now. So Anisha's just kind of thumbing through Ahmed's photos to find out that he's posing shirtless in one of them, which is like, hey man, like, working hard, man, working hard. Like, getting freaking six packed and whatever, for yeah, like freaking he's working out. Like, he's a horrible person, but hey, he's working out. No offense to the actor. Like, no offense, like, man, just working out, man, for this show. So, but Anisha is to, of course, find baby pictures, baby photos. So now, Nisha's like, mother. So she locks the door. She just click click, and so Ahmed is to come to the car, and Ahmed's like, Anisha, I can't get in the car. I'm like, come on. So Anisha unlocks the door, lets Ahmed in, and so we start driving off, and so now Anisha is to just start rattling off all these names, and so Ahmed's like, what are you, why are you saying random names for? And Anisha's like, baby names. So Ahmed's like, oh, you found more things about me. Like, just wait to the bombshell that Ahmed is just gonna drop at some point, right? Where he hasn't been working at his job for a month, or some other kind of bombshell that's just waiting to happen. Like, here's also the thing. So, is everybody just no longer needing to really have a job anymore? Like, what's what's really going on? Like, I get like some people are just kind of picking up and running, but like, when are they going to start running out of certain kind of like resources, like gas or money or whatever? Like, what's going to happen? I'm just kind of curious when we get to a point where like the car that they're in runs out of gas, or they have no more money to go to whatever hotels or motels or whatever. Are people just going to let them just stay there for free? Are they just going to have to break into certain places and just sleep there and then just like get the heck out? So now, like, we have Luke, who's like, dude, I gotta pee. And so Ahmed's like, dude, like, we were at that hotel before. Why didn't you go before, like, we left? And he's like, well, I have to go now. And so this kid just cannot hold his urine. And so he's like, I gotta pee. Stop. Pull over. Let me just pee. So the kid goes off, and so he is to pee so mysteriously that he pees and disappears. So now Anisha and Ahmed are kind of talking about, like, why, like, because Anisha's, of course, like, why didn't you tell me about the kid? And then Ahmed's like, well, it was an accident. It's like, I'm sorry, like, it was such an accident that, like, this kid has probably been how far along? And you're like, Are we just gonna find him on like a door like the next day? Just be like, hey, I'm a kid and I'm 5 years old, and like I'm Ahmed's baby daddy. Like, cause we don't know. Like this kid, like we could have just had ultrasound pictures, and we can find out that this kid has been actually much older, and he just has only the ultrasound pictures. Like we could have Anisha finding any number of with Ahmed, and so now that's going to be the only thing that we can tie onto the show. Just be like, man, I want to tune in next week to see how Ahmed is just effing up his life, because that's all we have in the show. Nothing else is very productive enough. So, like I said, Luke is just whip out that pee and then just whip away somewhere. So now this family is going off to try to find Luke. And so Luke bizarrely is just like, you know what? Peeing out in the woods is just not good enough. I'm going to go and find some random house somewhere and pee there. Because F this family, I'm going to run off to this home and just like ask them if I can just use their porta potties or just bathrooms or whatever they have. Outhouse? Roadhouse? So the Anisha family goes off to find Patrick Mitchell and Kelly Mitchell. I'm like, freaking Catherine? Like I've seen her in The Sinner? Like I think she was in the Sinner show, the Jessica Biel Sinner show. Plus I've seen her also in like of course, like wouldn't you like really just know her from What About Bob? Like of course you would know her from that. Like no brainer, right? What About Bob? So uh so all of a sudden we have Patrick Mitchell, and I'm like, why does this guy look so familiar? I'm like, oh yeah, I saw him in Orange Is the New Black, where he's kind of like he's like the head, he's like the head security guy or something like that, and yeah, so excuse me, so Patrick is to hold out this gun of like, hey, what's going on? And so this family is like, whoa, 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 hey, like we just want to see if there's a kid here. And so Patrick is like, oh yeah, like there's a kid here. Like he just like he was wandering off, so we just like had him come in because he's a kid and we were concerned. So this whole family just comes on in, and Patrick is like, hey, anybody else got to use the bathroom? Kind of thing, kind of a joke. So Ahmed is like, hey, we're going to get out of your hair. Just give us a second. And so, like, Patrick's like, hey, man, like, it's curfew. Like, there's all kind of weird and wacky stuff going on here. So, like, how about you guys just spend the night? Like, just be on the safe side. Like, it seems like we can trust you people, maybe. So, unless you have some secrets that you're going to just drop on me. Like, maybe you have another baby daddy or something. Like, what else is going on? Is Anisha pregnant and Ahmed doesn't even know? What's going on? What's going on with this story? Patrick needs to know. So, yeah, I think that's all that really happens in this episode. That's how we kind of leave off with this episode. So, yeah, that's it. Like, that's all we got. So, I think I'm going to get out of here. I thought I was going to finish this way quicker than that, but I think I had a lot of funny jokes about... I'm not patting myself in the back. I'm just... like, I'm not saying, oh, I was so good at this. No, I kind of just rushed through it. So with that said, we'll see what more Ahmed secrets are in store. I'm just waiting for us to, like, have the other pen to drop, where we're gonna find something out about Anisha or something like that, to just kind of like go somewhere with this. I don't know. Like I'm just like, is this all that this show has? Is just like find out more about Ahmed next week? because there needs to be a much more productive thing going on in this show. Because, like, what is the whole point of Invasion when, like, there isn't much of that even going on? Like, we're 4 episodes in, and I thought, like, I'm like, man, they're slow to the crawl with this mother. Hopefully we can get to something that is to be a better episode. You would, like, if this is to be a 10 episode thing, then we're gonna need to have, like, episode 5 have us, like, have this big thing go into it. Unless they're just gonna continue to just tell more stories, just kind of going in and pulling from other random places and, like, just give us that, I guess. So, like, hey, here's a new story, F it. Like, we're just running out of things to do for these other people. Let's just go and do completely different stories, because, like, like, all we just have is just these non-productive, like, stories. So let's just go and transition into this now. But, like, I would also like there to be some kind of, like other side of things where they kind of, like, how I was to say, where you kind of have the Black Summer thing, where you kind of cover, like, the people that might have gotten ripped off by Anisha. Like, they could have had a whole episode about them in this episode. Like, ripped off meaning that Anisha stole their car. Those people would have been a cool thing to cover in the next episode. To tell their kind of story and how, like, now they're out of a car. But they didn't do that. That would have been smart to do, but whatever. It's like this show is just not that creative. Or plus, also, it's like, hey, we're not creating events just just to have some other kind of story. It doesn't work that way. We're just focusing on one kind of thing or one kind of universe or whatever. But I'm waiting for all of these characters at some point to be connected to one another also. Like, I'm just waiting how, like, all the characters are going to get, even though they're in completely different parts of the world, because really just Travante is to be in Afghanistan and Mitsuki's to be in Japan, and so, like, the UK, and so we also have Anisha in, I'm assuming, America, because whatever. So I'm kind of waiting for that full circle moment of how, like, why are we covering all of these people? Like, I'm also to be interested in what happened with the sheriff's story. But I'm gonna get out of here. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye, everybody.